Shalom, shalom out there. Shalom, everyone listening on Facebook, on Debate Talk for You, and on my personal channel, The Way, the Truth, and the Life. Shalom, brother Amayan. This is our show, spiritual food. We're going to go into another lesson here, bring out some information um, about the one law in the Bible. But before I continue, let me bring in my co-host, brother Gabar.
Shalom, shalom, Israel. Man, it's good to be back on another eve of the Shabbat as it gets ready to come in. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashah HaMashiach, Yahweh Shai, for allowing us to have the grace and the mercy bestowed upon us to have this opportunity to bring this word out to you. Like my co-host just said, we're going to get into this one law and we're going to really get this thing right as the title speaks for itself. All right, so with that, I can turn it back over to you.
Hey, to order, brother. As usual, before I begin, I always give all praises to the Most High, uh, the Creator of all, the Holy One of Israel, the Ancient of Days, Yahweh, His name in Hebrew, which means I am, He is, or calls us to be. And we pay homage to His first begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, Christ Jesus in English, which means anointed Savior or anointed salvation. And as our brother Jude puts it in his letter, for us to contend for the faith that was once delivered to the saints. Okay, with that, let me share my screen. I want to do a couple of mini video intros right quick, and then we're going to hop right into the lesson. Okay, 1 second here, a couple of video. Let me see what this video is. Hop this up. 1 second. Bring this up again. All right, you see that one. See that one. And 8. Go back. Where is it? One at a time. Okay. Okay. It's a mini video intro, and we're gonna get right into it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This thing is in the way. Here we go. Okay, that's it. That's the mini video intro. One more time if you missed it. My new video going live. All right, that's it. Turn it off.
Everybody, you happy on the edge of my seat? That's it. That's all we got.
Man, that's the first one. There's more, but we gotta get this lesson, man. Let's do this lesson. There's a lot more, but I gotta get to this video. You gotta get to this lesson.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. All right.
Hold up, bro. You see now you don't make me. You don't make me gotta go in here and do this other one here. We're gonna do our regular. See. All right, so you made me do it, bro. I didn't want to do it, but let's get back. Let me stop sharing. Let's get back. All right. With that, I'm gonna pass it over to Gabar. This is actually my brother Gabar's lesson. He's gonna go into it, and I'm gonna be a reader. For now, Gabar, I turn it over to you, bro.
Appreciate it. I have to watch for that. So before I begin, I just want to say Shema Yasha Allah, Yahweh, Allah Na Yahweh, Yahweh Akkad. I might have butchered it. Which means, hear, O Israel, Yahweh, our God, is one Yahweh. All right. So somebody asked, where is Sal? Sal might be managing Facebook or maybe the YouTube comments. We're We're not on Blog Talk. We're doing the StreamYard, and we're just broadcasting to the platforms. Okay. So this is just something that we've been doing. Sal gives us access to be able to broadcast to his channel. So he may be chiming in. All right. But anyway, as I continue on,
Gabar, let me say this too. We're trying to. Sal is gonna eventually, I guess, come on and become a host for the platform. So that's definitely in the works. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely are working on getting Sal in as being a host. So eventually, most I will that's gonna happen.
Con. Yeah, we are definitely working with Sal on the back end to try to get everything up and running, so that way he could be streaming live on YouTube and at the same time being able to host a show. So we're trying to make those changes. You know, it's all a step-by-step process. All right. So with that being said, Israel, just want to say thank you for tuning in this evening, and may Yahweh keep you and watch over you always. This evening's lesson that we are going to go into is one law, really. Let's get this right. One law, really. Let's get this right. Reason why we're going into this is because we want to bring the proper understanding of the phrase one law in the scriptures, okay? Because it gets used often to try to have an all-inclusive premise that goes on concerning Israel and the other nations. So we want to just give the proper understanding on it, because there's a lot of distinctions, okay? It's not just blanket. It's not just a blanket statement. There's actual distinctions in it. So we want to go into that and to show all of that. We will be primarily in the Torah. Just letting you know right now. We are going to be primarily in the Torah. This is going to be a Torah-filled lesson. All right. So please take your pens and notepads out, take notes, and whenever we are done, we will be given the opportunity to come on, to chime in, ask your questions, give your comments, and we'll also be responding to feedback that is on the chat as well. Okay. So we're gonna open up with where this phrase is often quoted from. All right, we're gonna go to three places. The first place we're gonna go to is Exodus chapter 12, verse 49.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 49. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you.
All right, so oftentimes that gets read, and that's it. Let's see, it's one law unto him that's homeborn and to the stranger. Okay, it's in a couple other places, so we're just gonna get those other places so that way we can cover where they're at. So we're gonna go to the two other places real quick. Let's go to Leviticus 24 and verse 22.
Leviticus chapter 24 and verse 22. Ye shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your own country. For I am the Lord your God.
Okay, so another place where that's said at, right, about this one law or one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your own country. Okay, one more place. Let's go to Numbers chapter 15 and verse 16.
Numbers chapter 15, verse 16. One law and one manner shall be for you, and for the stranger that sojourneth with you.
Okay, so those are the three general places that you're going to find this phrase. Okay, one law that's going to be for the homeborn and for the stranger. Okay, for Israel and for the stranger. Okay, now I've spoken with other brothers about this before. Okay, they'll say, well, it's one law, and then I'll say, okay, well, there's distinctions in. I mean, even if you're gonna say it's a blanket statement, there's distinctions in the one law. If this phrase is covering all of Torah, let's just say that it is, right? Because it's not, but let's just say that it is. Then we gotta remember what the laws say in Torah, okay? If that is the case. So I want to give an example. If it's just one law, then here comes a problem that I'm about to pull. Let's go to Deuteronomy 23, and let's start at verse 19.
Deuteronomy 23, verse 19. Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother. Usury
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Usury of money, usury of virtues, usury of anything that is lent upon usury.
Okay, so you can't tax your brother. Let's just say that for simpler terms, all right? You can't tax your brother upon which you are trying to do trades and goods and all that with, all right? Usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. Okay, you can't add interest. All right, can't tax, can't add on interest. Go ahead, verse 20.
Unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all that thou settest thy hand to in the land whither thou goest to possess it.
So now, if it's one law and it goes across the board, you got it's for the stranger as it is for for the homeborn. Okay, then that should apply to usury too. We shouldn't be the children of Israel should not be able to put usury upon strangers, but we don't see that here. We don't see that here. So that already cancels out the one law being a blanket statement saying that it's equal across the board. It's one law for Israel and it's one law for the stranger, because this law is not applicable to that phrase or to that understanding. Okay, you got the stranger where you can put interest, tax, and all that upon, but to your brother you can't do that. All right. So before we continue on, brother, do you use anything that you want to chime in and add? If not, we can go forward.
Go ahead, brother.
All right. So now we're gonna go back and deal with the first one that we pulled in Exodus 12 and 49. But first we're gonna go to Numbers 9 and 14.
Okay. Numbers chapter 9 and verse 14. And if a stranger shall sojourn among you, and will keep the Passover unto the Lord, according to the ordinance of the Passover, and according to the manner thereof, so shall he do. Ye shall have one ordinance, both for the stranger and for him that was born in the land.
Okay, so now when you read Exodus 12 and 49, that phrase, there shall be one law, it's concerning Passover. It's concerning the ordinance of Passover. It's not a blanket statement. It's specific to Passover. So we're gonna go back to Exodus 12, and we're gonna eventually get to 49 again, but we're gonna start a couple of verses before. All right, because as I've stated in times past, you got to apply the 20-20 rule: 20 verses before, 20 verses after, to kind of get the context of what's going on. All right, make sure you in your reading and in your studying you do that. All right, so once again, this is spiritual food. We're trying to build you up, so use that as a tutelage. 20 verses before, 20 verses after, so that way you can get the context. All right, even if the context is only 5 verses before, still read 20 verses before, so that way you can kind of get the flow of what's going on. All right, as you get into your main point of whatever it is that you are studying. All right, so let's go back to Exodus 12, but we're going to start at verse 43.
Exodus 12, verse 43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof.
Okay, so we see here, this is the ordinance. All right, that we read from Numbers chapter 9, verse 14. All right, there's an ordinance of Passover that is a manner of law that's for Israel and for the stranger. Now it's going to get very distinctive on what this consists of. So now we got the first ordinance. Okay, shall no stranger eat thereof. Now me and the brother, we was doing a study on this, and we have come across that it says that where it says the son of the stranger. Okay, so the son of the stranger shall not eat thereof. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 44. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof.
Okay, and we're going to get those precepts concerning the stranger that gets bought. Okay, because now what's happening is once you buy a stranger to be a manservant, they have to be circumcised because now they're in an Israelite household. They are property of an Israelite household. Okay. You see that even during the time of Abraham, when the covenant of circumcision is given, all the males, including the servants, had to be circumcised. Okay. So for Passover, if you are a male servant that is bought into an Israelite household, you have to be circumcised. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 46.
45.
45. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof.
All right. So someone who's just a foreigner, or someone who's just an hired servant, man, shall not eat thereof. Okay. So you can't just be someone who's just hired to do a job real quick, or just someone that's just in the land. All right. That's just kind of passing through the land. Okay. Those strangers who are just passing through the land or just hired to do a quick job cannot partake in the Passover. Go ahead.
In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof.
Okay, so that's going into some other things concerning Passover. We can just keep going. Go ahead.
All the congregation of Israel shall keep it.
Okay, so that's a key point. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. If you're an Israelite and you got servants in your household, they got to follow the ordinance because they're a part of your household. Okay, go ahead.
And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee and will keep the Passover unto the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
Okay, so now this stranger is a proselyte or a convert. So someone who comes into the land, decides that they want to convert to keeping Torah, and they want to actually live there. Okay, they actually want to live in the land. Then this is the ordinance that they have to do. Okay, and in that instance, according to Passover, they are as one that is born in the land to keep Passover. Not a blanket statement, though. It's still not a blanket statement, because remember, this person, even though they're a proselyte and they converted over, usury can still be put upon them. The law of usury still applies to them. They're not treated as a native born when it comes to usury. Okay, there's just one as born in the land when it comes to keeping Passover, because they are circumcised. All right, verse 49.
Verse 49. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you.
Okay, so there it goes right there. That's the one law. It's primarily concerning Passover in regards to circumcision. All right, regarding circumcision for Passover. That is what this one law or one judgment or one statute is consistent of. Okay, before we move on, Ox, anything you want to add? If not, we can continue on.
Yeah, I want to make some clarity here, is that we see clearly here that the stranger have an option to keep Passover. It says, and if a stranger that sojourn that wants to keep the Passover and would keep the Passover, see, he has an option to keep it or not. Israelites don't. We have to keep Passover. Have to. These are facts. Okay, so There's a distinction there in itself that we have to keep it, and they have an option to keep it. All right, go ahead, Gabar.
Con. But if they are bought into an Israelite household, they got to do it and they got to follow the ordinance, because and it's the responsibility of the head of that Israelite household to make sure that their servants, their male servants, are circumcised. Okay, so that's the one law concerning Passover and circumcision for the stranger, whether they be someone that is bought and is in an Israelite household, or someone who has converted over, a proselyte, and chooses to keep the Passover. Okay, but someone who's just passing through the land, that's of another nation, or someone who's just coming in to do a job, they can't do it. So okay, so those are the things that we got to understand concerning this phrase. This phrase is not a blanket statement for the entire Torah. All right. Let's go to Leviticus 25, because I want to establish this thing about the strangers who can be bought and who can't be bought. Okay, because that's another stipulation that we got to understand when it comes to when someone tries to say, oh, it's just one law for Israel and for the stranger. Again, if you use it as a blanket statement, you gotta this will fall into it, which creates problems. All right. So Leviticus 25, and let's start at verse 39.
Leviticus 25, verse 39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bond servant.
Okay, so now we're talking about bond servants, right? So your brother, your Israelite kinsman, okay, if they become poor and they be sold unto you, he's not going to be a bond servant, meaning he's not going to serve forever. Okay, he's not a bond servant. Go ahead.
But as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee until the year of Jubilee.
Right, because the year of Jubilee is the year of release. Okay, when you read Exodus 21, it talks about the Hebrew servant, okay, and how long they serve and everything. Okay, so you can go back to Exodus 21 to get that understanding, but we're going to keep going. Go ahead.
Verse 41. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return.
Go ahead.
For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. Ye shall not be sold as bondmen.
So it's reiterating it again, just like the Most High says in Job 33 and 14. For God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth it not. So Most High is repeating himself. Make sure you get the understanding, even though some still don't get the understanding. Okay, he's going to say it more than once. All right, so again, these Israelite kinsmen are not to be treated as bond servants. They're to be treated as hired servants or as sojourners. Okay, not as bond servants. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shalt fear thy God.
So once again, you can't rule over them with rigor, right? But because you got to fear the Most High and what He said, because He just told you to not treat them as bond servants. Go ahead.
Verse 44. But thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids.
Right. So when you read the law in Exodus, or the statute in Exodus about that concerning Passover, these are the bondmen. Those are the ones that got to be circumcised if they're in your household, because they are bought. Okay. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen. All right. A bondman and bondmaids is not a hired servant. Okay. It's not a Hebrew servant. They're of the other nations. Go ahead.
Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they beget in your land, and they shall be your possession.
All right. So even going back to Exodus 12, when you read about the proselyte is still considered a stranger, even though they converted over. Okay. They can still be bought as a servant. Okay. That's something that we got to understand. They can still be bought as a servant, and they don't get a year of release. Okay. They're not released in the year of Jubilee. All right. Because we're gonna read that. Okay. So the nations that surround Israel can be bought as bondmen and bond servants, and even the strangers that sojourn. So the ones that are passing through, the ones that decide they want to convert over, they can be bought as bondmen and bondmaids. Okay, and of their families that are with you. So even their children. Okay, I know that sounds harsh, but hey, I didn't write this. It's thus saith Yahweh. I didn't write this. Okay. And it says, and they shall be your possession. Go ahead.
And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor.
They shall be your bondmen forever. And you see that part right there? And even before that, how it talks about your children after you. So these bondmen and bond servants, they get passed down and inherited by your children. Okay. So once again, if one law is a blanket statement, this has to fall into it, which creates problems, because now it's not equal across the board. And I've I don't know how many times I've pulled this verse on other shows and live streams and stuff that was on Debate Talk for You, and I've asked this question. I'm like, okay, if one law, if it's truly equal, why does it say this here? And no one can ever answer it. We're still waiting for an answer. I mean, if I'm wrong, we'll put the link out, and you can come on and give your thesis on it, okay? And give your information on it, all right? And if we stand corrected, then we stand corrected. But again, this is something that's got to be addressed, if it can be addressed, all right? And it has yet to be addressed, all right? So with that, is there anything you want to say to that? You can. If not, we're going to move on.
Yeah, I mean, we also know that they can't be king. They can't be king in Israel. So, I mean, can we read that or no? Can we get that?
Yeah, we can go ahead and read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 17. So we know that they can't be king. So that's a distinction right there again in the law. So it's not a blanket statement to say one law, everything in the Torah that applies to an Israelite applies to a non-Israelite. That's not what the Torah is saying. It's specific to whatever it's speaking of will be prior to when it says one law. So Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14. When thou art come unto the land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother.
So we see clearly here, a foreigner, a non-Israelite, cannot be set over the nation of Israel. So this one law about blanket statement just don't apply, because this particular law right here about the king will disprove that sentiment or that understanding. So other nations cannot rule in Israel. Just like here in this country right here. I mean, you have to be a citizen in this country to be president. You cannot be of another country and just come in here and run and be president. It doesn't work like that. You got to be a citizen of this country here to be president in this country. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it works. Can I get one more?
Come.
Deuteronomy chapter 14.
Yes, sir.
Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 21. Again, this is not a distinction within the Torah to show that this blanket statement of one law is just not correct.
Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 21. Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself.
So if an animal just die of natural cause or die of itself, go ahead.
Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates,
So
that he may eat it.
yeah, we supposed to, so that die of itself, we shall give that to the stranger that is in our gates. They can get that. They're gonna get that. Go ahead.
Or thou mayest sell it unto an
Alien.
alien, Khan, Slakia. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
So we're gonna give it to the stranger that's in our gates, that they may eat of it. It says, or we may sell it to an alien. Because we are a holy people unto the Most High. He don't want to eat stuff like that die of itself. Okay? So this is another distinction in the law to let you know that there is no one law for every single person. For Israelites and non-Israelites. Israelites are not supposed to eat anything that die of itself. That's for the strangers in our gates and for aliens. So that's another distinction there. With that, I'll turn it back over to Gabar.
Khan. And the stranger that's within thy gates, again, can be the hired servant, someone that's just passing through the land to come do a job real quick, or a proselyte. Okay, those things apply to them. Okay, so we got to get this right. That's why this lesson is called that. Let's get this right concerning one law. All right, because the things that I've heard is just doesn't add up with the Torah. I mean, there's just, like I said, we're going to primarily stay in the Torah. All right. Since we're dealing with it, we're going to primarily stay in it so we can get the understanding of this one law. We're going to get this right. Okay. From there, let's go to Leviticus 16. Leviticus 16 and verse 29.
Leviticus chapter 16, verse 29. And this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, ye shall afflict your souls, and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country, or a stranger that sojourneth among you.
Go ahead.
For on that day shall the priest make an atonement for you, to cleanse you, that ye may be clean from all your sins before the Lord.
Okay, so when it comes to the Day of Atonement, this is the statute concerning Israel and the stranger that sojourns among us. Ain't nobody getting out of keeping the Day of Atonement. That's too important of a day that everyone that's in the land is gonna have to do it. Okay, there is no choice for the stranger in this. All right, the stranger has an option to keep Passover. They ain't got no choice in this. All right, the stranger that sojourns among us, they have no option to keep whether or not they want to do Day of Atonement. Oh, you gonna fast on that day? Okay, they ain't no. There's not gonna be no manner of work coming from anyone when it comes to whenever it comes to the Day of Atonement. No one that's in the land is gonna be working. Okay, no manner of work from anyone. All right. So now when it comes to it being across the board, yeah, that's definitely accurate concerning the Day of Atonement. Definitely an accurate statement. Everybody gotta stop. Whether you someone that's homeborn or someone that's sojourning, a nation, a non-Israelite that is sojourning. Okay, everyone's got to do it. Okay, but this is one of few times where it's going to be across the board. One of few, because as we've already pulled out 3 or 4 other scenarios in the Torah where there's clearly distinctions where it differentiates between Israel and then the stranger. It's not across the board. All right. So with that, is there anything you want to add? You can. Otherwise, we can go on.
Yeah, the Day of Atonement. This is also a Sabbath, and we know that according to the commandment on the weekly Sabbath, that we supposed to, everybody's supposed to rest as well. Your maid servant, men servant, even your animals. It says there in the commandment is supposed to rest. So the high holy days are all considered to be Sabbaths, just like your weekly Sabbath goes on into a rest. So this would include everybody needs to rest on that day as well. I'll turn it back over to the bar.
Hey, let me go ahead and read that for you real quick, so that way they understand what that is. I mean, some people may not know that's actually there, because oftentimes it just says remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, but they don't read the rest of it. So let me go ahead and read that for you real quick. Let me read Exodus 20 and verse 8 through 10 for you real quick.
Okay.
All right. Exodus 20 verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
So the Most High is clear. He says, listen, remember, because see, the thing is, a lot of people forget. So he's telling you to remember, okay? And when you go into this English word remember, it's the Hebrew word zakir. And zakir is to remember something by speaking of it, by continue to talk of it. That's how you remember something, to keep it going. So remember it by speaking of it. So we constantly speaking of the Sabbath to you. So continue to speak of the Sabbath. That's how you continue to remember it. So remember the Sabbath, and it says to keep that day holy. Okay, keep that day set apart. Keep that day holy. Don't view that day as a regular day. That's the Most High Sabbath day, the day of rest. Go ahead.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
Go ahead.
But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahweh thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
Clear. Okay. So the 7th day is the Sabbath that says of the Most High. That's that belongs to the Most High. That's his day that he stopped working on. Okay. That's the day that he stopped all his work he was doing after 6 days of work. All right. And it goes on to be clear to tell you who's to stop working. So it covers everybody there. All right. Go ahead, Gabar.
Con. So as you already stated, like when it comes to the Day of Atonement and the Sabbath, because Day of Atonement is to be treated as a Sabbath, means everybody's got to stop. All right. So the stranger, the manservant, the maidservant, when it comes to Day of Atonement, hey, you got to afflict your soul. You going if you are in this land, if you're in the land of Israel, hey, you gotta fast. All right. From the 9th day at even until the 10th day at even. Okay. So you gotta do that fast. All right. It doesn't matter if you are Israelite or not. If you are in the land, it must be done. Okay. Let's continue on. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. And we're going to start at verse 10.
Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 10. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of a freewill offering of thy hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according as the Lord thy God hath blessed thee.
All right, so this is talking about the Feast of Weeks that leads up to the day of Pentecost. Go ahead.
And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant and the Levite that is within thy gates and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to place his name there.
Okay, so again, when it comes to Feast of Weeks, these things do apply for all that is dwelling within the land, wherever the Most High chooses to place his name. So if you got manservants and maidservants, they fall under this criteria. Okay, so for the stranger, they fall under this criteria. Levites fall under this criteria. Manservants, maidservants, they all fall under this criteria. Fatherless, widow, etc., and so on. Everybody that's within the land where the Most High has chosen to place his name, that if it applies to them. Now, if they're not dwelling in the land, If they not within, if they're not dwelling among the body, if they off somewhere in another nation, then no, it's not going to apply. Okay, but once they come into the land and once they come amongst the body, yes, it applies. All right, go ahead.
And thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe and do these statutes.
So you see, this is a statute that applies to both Israel and the stranger, but is it the whole totality of the Torah? No, it's not. This is just one other law. that's really the phrase that's got to be that's got to be start that people got to start using. It's one other law concerning Israel and the stranger. It's not the whole totality of Torah. All right, it's just one other statute. Okay, let's continue on. Give me verse 13.
Verse 13, thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that, thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant and the Levite, the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are within thy gates.
All right. And you actually see this in prophecy when you read Zechariah 14, that you got to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. The other nations are going to have to come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. They're not going to be able to get out of it, because if they are, they're going to get put to death. It tells you that in Zechariah 14. Okay. So as it was in the past, so shall it be in the future. Okay. So even with the Feast of Tabernacles, this is something that applies. All right. So now you notice trumpets is not mentioned. So unless someone can show me, Akron, unless you know, I've never seen where it talks about the strangers keeping the memorial blowing of trumpets. Okay, so I don't even think that's something that they're not obligated to keep, as far as I know. But I could be wrong. But so if I stand corrected, then so be it. Otherwise, if you got something else to add, you can. Otherwise, we can move on.
Go ahead, you can move on.
Okay. Let's dig into this a little bit more. Let's go to Leviticus 24. Now, we quoted Leviticus 24 and we quoted verse 22 earlier, but now we're going to get the understanding on that. All right, we're going to start back from verse 10 and we're going to go down to 23 so we can get the full understanding of why it says one manner of law right there in Leviticus in verse 22. All right, so Leviticus 24, and now we're going to start at verse 10.
And the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Israel. And his son and this son of the Israelitish woman and a man of Israel strove together in the camp.
So you see, something happened where there was an interracial marriage that took place, and they had a man's or child. I'm not afraid to say it because that's just in the scripture. They had a man's or child, and the son of that Israelitish woman, and a man of Israel. So someone who's an actual Israelite, they strove together in the camp. So they were having a dispute in the camp. Physical, some words probably got exchanged as well. Okay, go ahead.
And the Israelitish woman's son blasphemed the name of Yahweh and cursed. And they brought him unto Moses, and his mother's name was Shilomith, the daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan.
Okay, so this Israelitish woman was a Danite. Okay, and she had a child by an Egyptian. Okay, so they were in the camp, and now we're going to see what happens because he blasphemed the name of the Most High. All right, go ahead.
Verse 12, and they put him in ward, that the mind of the Most High might be showed them.
Okay, so it says, and they put him inward, that the mind or the heart of the Most High might be shewed them. So now we're going to get into what happens after this is done. All right, Ox, anything you want to add, you can to bring clarity.
No, let's go ahead.
All right, verse 13.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Bring forth him that have cursed without the camp, and let all that heard him lay their hands upon his head, and let all the congregation stone him.
So now we see a judgment is being placed upon this mamzer child who blasphemed the name of the Most High. Stone him with stones. As Mike has said, we were offline one day. It was so funny, man. He got that brick shower. Okay. he got a brick shower, man. They was just launching stones at him, bricks, rocks, boulders. I mean, if they could pick them up, there's probably rolling boulders at him. I mean, every stone ain't the same size. They all come in different sizes. If you're stronger, you probably gonna pick up a bigger stone. Like, let me launch this. Let me see how hard I can throw it. So this is what happened. Go ahead.
And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, Whosoever curseth his God shall bear his sin.
Go ahead.
And he that blasphemeth the name of Yahweh, he shall surely be put to death. And all the congregation shall certainly stone him, as well the stranger as he that is born in the land, when he blasphemeth the name of Yahweh, shall be put to death.
Okay, so when it comes to this judgment that goes out, it is across the board. All right, it doesn't matter if you are an Israelite or a mamzer or a stranger or someone who's just passing through. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're a manservant or a maid servant. If you blaspheme the name of the Most High, this is the judgment that has to go down. Okay, and the strangers they can't be like, oh, I'm not gonna do it, because they may, oh man, that's my people. I mean, dang it, man, I was an Egyptian too. I don't want to stone him. No, you better pick up that rock and stone him. All right, you can't be having no favoritism when it comes to the judgment of the Most High. Once He says it, it's gotta come to pass. All right. Before I go on, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I want to also say too. We got to touch on this mamzer thing definitely in the future. Bring some clarity on who Israel is and who the Israelites are not. It's a big thing. Today we got to find out who Israel is according to this text right here. Definitely there is a problem with mixed children. The Most High is not with that mixing. That's not what the Most High is about. So we got to touch on that and get some more clarity on these mixing. Just because you're a so-called black man, that doesn't make you an Israelite. It just be clear, okay? So we got to use the text of the Bible and the Spirit to figure out who are really Israelites. Okay, with that, I'll turn it back over to Gabar.
Khan. All right, so let's pick up verse 17.
And he that killeth any man shall surely be put to death.
Go ahead.
And he that killeth a beast shall make it good, beast for beast.
Go ahead.
And if a man cause a blemish in his neighbor, as he have done, so shall it be done to him. Breach for breach, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. As he have caused a blemish in a man, so shall it be done to him again. And he that killeth a beast, he shall restore it. And he that killeth a man, he shall be put to death.
All right. So now these are the things that concern eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, beast for beast. Any man that kills someone's got to be put to death. Anyone that kills a beast, you got to restore it. So on and so on. Okay. Give me verse 22.
Verse 22. Ye shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your own country, for I am the Lord your God.
All right, so now this does go across the board when it comes to if a stranger kills someone, they got to die. If a stranger kills a beast, I mean, if they got a beast in their possession, that's they gotta they gotta cough up and hand over whatever beast that they have or whatever cattle that they have. And if they don't have it, it probably gonna have to go into servitude. Okay. Uh, if a man curse cause a blemish in his neighbor, as he have done, so shall it be done to him. All right. So if the stranger does that, that's what's going to happen to him. It's going to be breach for breach. It's going to be eye for eye. It's going to be tooth for tooth. Okay. So that also applies to the stranger. Okay. Now, do we? So now I would, and I do want to say this. I want to be fair. If strangers are in the land, we can't do that to them either. We can't be murdering them, killing them, shedding innocent blood, gouging their eyes out, and trying to kill off their crops. No, we can't treat them unfairly. I mean, they do that to us over here. They clearly do that to us, and they get away with it. But in our land, the Most High is righteous, so He's not going to allow that to go down. Okay. Because even though they're strangers, they still are the sons of Adam. Okay, they still come out of the sons of Adam, though they're not the chosen that come out of the sons of Adam. Okay, Most High, He don't roll like that. Okay, He don't roll like how these wicked rulers over here in this land does. Okay, it's not how He gets down. Okay, He's gonna be fair. He's not just gonna be like, oh man, the children of Israel can kill anybody that's a stranger and get away with it. Nah, that's not how it works. Okay, so that it is across the board when it comes to that. It is eye for eye. Okay, so if someone that's a stranger that's in the land gets innocently murdered by an Israelite, the Israelite man will have to be put to death. Okay, so that's the one manner of law concerning this. Again, it's not a blanket statement for the entire Torah. All right, just want to make that clear. Before we go on, Agus, anything you want to add, you can, or we can move on.
Or we can move on.
Khan. Let's jump back. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 17. And again, we're going to allow people to come in and ask any questions. We will leave the link in the chat after we are done going through all of this. Okay. Is there anybody? Let me see if anybody's saying anything in the chat real quick. No, not yet. Okay, so we're gonna continue on. All right, Leviticus 17, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 8.
Leviticus chapter 17, verse 8. And thou shalt say unto them, whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers which sojourneth among you, that offereth a burnt offering or a sacrifice.
Okay, so now this is concerning strangers that sojourn among you, that offers a burnt offering or a sacrifice. Go ahead.
And bringeth it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer it unto the Lord, even that man shall be cut off from among his people.
Okay, so now let's continue reading before we give the understanding on who these strangers are. Go ahead.
And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourneth among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off from among his people.
Okay, so now these strangers are Israelite strangers. Okay, these are actually Israelite strangers. They may come from another tribe, and they may come dwell amongst. Maybe they coming from the tribe of Reuben, and they come dwell with the tribe of Judah. Maybe they journey down to Jerusalem for whatever reason. Maybe they're down there because as a male, got to appear 3 times a year. Okay, so maybe this is during the time that they are journeying down into Jerusalem. So they're dwelling amongst the tribe of Judah. These are the tribes. So they are strangers. Okay, that are in that particular region that was allotted to that specific tribe. Okay, other tribes. It's not that other tribes don't travel around and don't go into where other tribes are dwelling at amongst the 12. Okay, so and the reason why we know it says that, we know that these are Israelite strangers because it talks about how if you eat any manner of blood, they're going to be cut off from among his people. Okay, and that's applied to the strangers that sojourn and of the house of Israel that are in their own land. Okay, Let's continue on. Go ahead.
Verse 11. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it be the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul.
Go ahead.
Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood.
Go ahead.
And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourneth among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust.
So now we see, because remember, we read the law earlier in Deuteronomy 14 about if a beast that dieth of itself, and all that, like if what I'm saying, like it's those you can give to strangers that are not Israelite born, or an alien that's not even dwelling in the land. Okay, to the strangers that are around about outside the land. Okay, so that's how we know when we are talking about this specific law is concerning Israelite strangers that come from another tribe that's dwelling somewhere outside of their specific allotted land. They may be dwelling amongst a different tribe. Okay, go ahead.
For it is the life of all flesh, the blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off.
So you see that? So now we see how this is applying to Israelite strangers. Okay. Let's read verse 15.
And every soul that eateth that which dieth of itself, or that which was torn with beasts, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even.
Okay. So now we got a statute of someone if they do eat something that dies of itself. Okay. Now we do have a statute here that applies to the other nations. Okay, because we just read in Deuteronomy 14 about how the animal that dies of itself, or that which was torn with beasts, it says, whether it be of your own country or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even, then shall he be clean. Okay, and the reason why someone that would be a native born would end up doing a situation would end up eating this is probably because they didn't know. Okay, they probably didn't know like until after the fact, like, oh man, I just ate something that died of itself, or that was torn with, or that was torn by another animal that got killed by another animal. Okay, you got to wash your clothes, bathe yourself in water, and be unclean until the even, then shall he be clean. Okay, so again, these are the things that we see. Let me correct myself. I just caught it. So now this is actually this is still talking about Israelite strangers. Actually, I just caught it. This is still talking about Israelite strangers, and because they're not supposed to do it. That's why they got to wash themselves and be clean and decide where they can be clean by the next even. All right. Let me get verse 16 real quick.
Verse 16, but if he wash them not, nor bathe his flesh, then he shall bear his iniquity.
Okay, so again, this is applying to all the house of Israel, whether they be dwelling in their own allotted territory or someone who's coming from a different tribe and dwelling amongst another tribe. Okay, because remember Deuteronomy 14, they can eat this stuff. Here's the children of Israel ain't supposed to eat this stuff. They're not supposed to eat it. Okay, so if they get in a situation where they do eat something that dies of itself, they gotta. This is the statute that will apply to them. Okay, Salakia for that mistake. I was going through it and then I just kind of missed it. All right. But is there anything that you want to add, Ak? You can. If not, we can move on.
We can move on.
Okay. Let me get Leviticus 20. Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 1 and verse 2.
Leviticus chapter 20, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones.
Okay. So once again, this is a blanket statement applying to everybody. If you look, if you were a foreigner, or if you were a sojourner in the land of Israel, all right, if you were a proselyte, okay, manservant, maidservant, you cannot give your children unto the seed of Molech. That's just something that you can't do. Okay, you're going to be put to death for that. All right, so that is a judgment that goes across the board for anyone that is in the land. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have on that. If there's nothing else that you want to add to it, we can continue on.
You know, when giving your seed to Molech is child sacrifice. Let's be clear what that is. You know what I'm saying? Giving the seed to the Molech, people killing their children, sacrificing them to an idol. It's a child sacrifice that this is speaking of. So we be clear what it means. Give your seed unto Molech. All right, go ahead, Kabar.
All right, let's go. Let's jump back a little bit again. Let's go to Leviticus 18, and we're going to pick it up at verse 26.
Leviticus chapter 18, verse 26. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgment, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you.
All right, so the abominations that is going into is all these sexual immoralities, as far as homosexuality, bestiality, incest, things of that nature. Okay, this applies once again across the board. You could not be an Israelite. I mean, you cannot be a stranger that is a non-Israelite coming into the land, because now it's really making a clear distinction. It says neither any of your own nation nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. You cannot commit these acts, these wicked acts. Okay, so a non-Israelite may come from a nation that do commit those acts. Hey, look, you got nope. You coming in our house. You better quit that mess immediately the moment you hit the borderline. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 27. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled.
Right. So now we understand that the nations that were before those Canaanites and all those people that were dwelling in the land at the Most High had to come in and start cleaning out in order for the children of Israel to take that land. They were defiling the land by those acts, and they got put to death. So likewise, the children of Israel can't do it. Okay, nor the stranger that comes and sojourns among them, a proselyte that wants to convert over. You cannot commit sexual immoralities listed in this chapter in the verses above. Go ahead.
That the land spew not you out also, when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you.
All right, because likewise, the nations that were before the children of Israel that came into the land, they defiled the land. Okay, the land. That's why it says that the nations that were before you, they defiled the land. So a non-Israelite that comes into the land and does those acts, they can defile the land. Okay, they can come in and defile the land by committing these acts. So that is why they cannot do that either, because as we see, the other nations can clearly defile the land if they are present. Go ahead.
Verse 29. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the soul that committeth them shall be cut off from among their people.
All right, so it don't matter if you're in the land, if you are a hired servant, if you bought as a bond servant, if you just a proselyte, someone who just converted over, you better not do it. Okay, continuing on. Is there anything you want to add? You can. If not, we can continue on.
Now go ahead.
All right. Okay, so we're getting through this. We don't have too much more to go over. Let's go to Numbers chapter 19. And I want verse, let me see if there's anything that I need before it. Give me verse 10.
Numbers chapter 19, verse 10.
Comment.
And he that gathereth the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the even. And it shall be unto the children of Israel, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you, for a statute forever.
Okay. So again, it's applying to everyone that is in the land. Okay. If you gather the ashes, it says, he that gathereth the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes. Okay. So, and it shall be unto the children of Israel, unto the stranger that shall join up among them, for a statute forever. If I'm wrong, if it is in Israel, if these are Israelite strangers, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that these are talking about strangers that are not Israelites that are sojourning in the land also. Okay, but I could be wrong, so I'm gonna let you chime in on that if I'm wrong or not.
No, just go ahead.
Okay, so let's continue on. That was just one verse, real quick. Where are we at? All right, let's go. So now we're gonna get more into these offerings. Okay, let's go to Numbers 15. Let me more into these.
Let me say something. Are you dealing with the law that is the same now across the board? I mean, what are you dealing with right now, so we can understand?
So again, we are dealing with things that do apply across the board. We established how these things, how this is not totality of the Torah, though. It's not totality of the Torah. There are certain laws that do go across the board, and then there's certain laws when you see stranger there, it's only applicable to Israelite strangers. Okay, that's who it's talking about in the particular context. Okay. And we're going to see that again, okay, in just a moment. But before, actually, we're going to go to this particular passage first before we get back to where it's talking about Israelite strangers again. All right, so let's go to Numbers 15.
Gabar, here's what I'm saying. I don't think you have to go through every single law that's the same. I mean, that goes across the board. You know, I don't think that's necessary. We can go put the because we try to make a distinction that it's not across the board. So, I mean, we know that there are laws that are across the same, but it's to make a distinction that it's not across the board. You know, when people point out what's across the board, I think that's clear enough to make the distinction. Unless you feel it's necessary to go through every single law that's across the board, we can slide a link into the chat. You know what I'm saying?
I think this might be the last one because I do want to get to Leviticus 19 because that's a key one. That's definitely a key one.
Okay, yeah, because we want to get to the main points and not kind of like drag it out. You know what I'm saying? So we can bring anybody on that wants to say something. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Let's see what we got left. All right. Well, since we quoted Numbers 15 earlier, let me go ahead and deal with this one because it got quoted earlier. So I just want to give understanding on this, and then we can jump to Leviticus 22 because we were discussing that one earlier, and then we'll go to Leviticus 19 because that's a key one, and then we could bring people in. So we probably maybe like 20 more minutes, and then we can bring people in. Okay, so let me get Numbers 15. Let's just get straight to the point. Verse 11.
Numbers chapter 15, verse 11. Thus shall it be done for one bullock, or for one ram, or for a lamb, or a kid.
Okay, so this is concerning the offerings and sacrifices that are to be done in the land. Okay, go ahead.
According to the number that ye shall prepare, so shall ye do to every one according to their number.
Okay, The offerings that are to be done, it's got to be in preparation according to the population number, uh, and this is how the offerings got to be applicable to that number. Okay, go ahead.
All that are born of the country shall do these things after this manner, in offering an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord.
Okay, so all Israelites, okay, all that are born in the country shall do these things. Go ahead.
And if a stranger sojourneth with you, or whosoever be among you in your generations, and will offer an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord, as ye do, so he shall do.
Okay, so there goes that choice again, much like with Passover. There goes that choice again. So if a sojourner, if a stranger will make an offering made by fire, okay, it's got to be done according to the ordinance that is in the verses listed above. Okay, if he chooses to do so, go ahead.
One ordinance shall be both for you of the congregation, and also for the stranger that sojourneth with you, an ordinance forever in your generations. As ye are, so shall the stranger be before the Lord.
And let me get the key verse that we read earlier, verse 16.
One law and one manner shall be for you, and for the stranger that sojourneth with you.
Okay, so again, when we read these phrases, it's not just talking about the strangers are the same as the Israelites. It's concerning this offering law. Okay, this statute concerning offerings. If the stranger decides that they want to make this offering made by fire, then they got to be doing it as the same as an Israelite native. Okay, if they decide to make that choice to do so. Okay, they don't have to make an offering made by fire. That's optional for them. Okay, it's not optional for the children of Israel. Okay, so again, we see these different distinctions that we gotta bring out. Okay, trying to think, do I want to bring this out real quick? We can skip over this one. So, if there's anything that you want to add, you can. Otherwise, we can move on.
Let's move on.
Okay, let's go to Leviticus 22. Let's deal with this. It's going to be kind of a hard hitter right here. Leviticus 22, and let's start at verse 10.
Leviticus 22 and verse 10. And Balaam said unto God,
Oh, are you at the right place? Leviticus 22.
so just, my bad. Leviticus 22 verse 10. There shall no stranger eat of the holy thing, a sojourner of the priest or an hired servant shall not eat of the holy thing.
Okay, so these strangers right here, it is talking about Israelite strangers. Okay, that's what this is actually speaking about, because it's concerning Levites. Okay, because the Levites are the priests. Okay, go ahead.
But if the priest buy any soul with his money, he shall eat of it, and he shall be born in his house. They shall eat of his meat.
All right. So if the priest has a bond servant, then they can eat. That is the only time that they can eat. That is the only time that someone that is outside of the tribe of Levi, or even outside of the tribes of Israel, can eat something is that is that is meant for the priest to partake in. Okay, because and the reason why this particular bond servant can eat something that is in his house is because, remember, again, it's Israelite property. He's in his house now. Okay, but the stranger says, "Shall no stranger eat of the holy thing?" Okay, Now you can also apply that. You can also apply that to the other nations because they can't even operate in the priesthood. I mean, they can't even do that. So that it definitely applies to them, but it's also equally applying to Israelite strangers as well. Okay, go ahead.
If the priestess daughter also be married unto a stranger, she may not eat of any offering of the holy things.
Okay, so that's talking about if the priest's daughter, a daughter of Levi, a Levite daughter, be married unto an Israelite stranger, she can't partake of the holy things. All right, because it's against Torah for any Israelite to marry outside of the nation of Israel. Okay, that's against Torah. So likewise, if she's married unto a stranger, it's got to be an Israelite stranger, meaning that man that she's married to is from a different tribe, not from the tribe of Levi. Go ahead.
I want to say this in this English word stranger. It says you have ish and you have zur here, so we know that this is speaking of an Israelite man because of the Hebrew words that's there.
Khan, go ahead.
Verse 13. But if the priest's daughter be a widow or divorced or have no children, and is returned unto her father's house as in her youth, she shall eat of her father's meat, but there shall no stranger eat thereof.
Right, because if as long as she's married to that Israelite stranger, she's considered a stranger herself. So unless she's divorced or widowed and has no children and is back in her father's house under never being married or being widowed or being divorced, and she can't have children. Because if she has children, that means that now, I mean, it's like half Levite, half Reuben or something. It's like it's still stating that, oh well, the child is a stranger in regards to not being a full-blooded Levite. Okay, they're still an Israelite. They're just not a full-blooded Levite though. Okay, they can't partake of the holy things that are given to the priest. Okay, uh, let's jump down to verse 18. Unless something that you want to add, we can jump down to verse 18.
Now, verse 18. Speak unto Aaron and to his sons and unto all the children of Israel, and say unto them, whatsoever he be of the house of Israel or of the stranger in Israel that will offer his oblation for all his vows and for all his freewill offerings which they will offer unto the Lord for a burnt offering, ye shall offer at your own will a male without blemish of the beeves, of the sheep, or of the goats.
Okay, so we see here is going into these acceptable offerings. Okay, the type of offerings that are accepted. Okay, it can't be without blemish. Now we see here in verse 18 it says, "Or of the strangers of Israel." So we're gonna get some understanding on that in just a second. But we got to continue to read down so that way we can know what particular stranger is that talking about. Okay, so let's continue to read down, and then we're gonna go on. Let's just jump straight to the point. Let's go to let's start at verse. Let's just go to verse 25. Let's just go straight there.
Verse 25. Neither from a stranger's hand shall ye offer the bread of your God of any of these, because their corruption is in them, and blemishes be in them. They shall not be accepted for you.
So see now, this stranger here is talking about those of another nation. The strangers back in verse 18 is talking about Israelite strangers. Okay, that's what that is. That is what is speaking about. Okay, I say so. So it's got to be without blemish. Okay, so now if you got strangers that are in the land, okay, they can't make these type of offerings that will offer an oblation for vows or for free will offerings. Okay, they can't They can't offer these type of things because it's going to be a blemish. Okay, it's going to be blemished. Okay, so these are the type of acceptable offerings according to the oblation for vows and for free will offerings. It's a different type of offering that we read in Numbers 15. It's a totally different type of offering. Okay, it's a different type of offering. I just want to make that clear. So again, these strangers in verse 25 of the nations, verse 18, talking about Israelite strangers. Okay, got to make those distinctions there, because you can get lost in the text when you see stranger, 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 and not knowing how it's applied. Okay, but it's important to understand the scenario and harmonizing the text so that way it can all make sense. Okay, with that, is there anything that you want to add? You can. If not, we can jump into Leviticus 19 and bring out the precepts to that before we get ready to open up for people to come in.
Well, let's go on Leviticus 19.
All right, Leviticus 19. Let's read verse 33 and 34.
Leviticus chapter 19, verse 33. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
Okay. So now this is a key one. I actually did hear this one. I heard this one quoted before. All right. Some time ago, someone had quoted this, and they were saying, "Well, you see, it's across the board. You gotta love the stranger as yourself." Okay. So now, for those who don't know about the whole "thou shalt love him as thyself," you got to understand that in its totality as well. Maybe we need to do a lesson on that about how you got to love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay. Now we're gonna get some understanding on this. So we got a few more scriptures to hit, and then we're gonna open it up. Is there anything that you want to add to this? We can. If not, we can move on.
Oh, we can move on.
All right. First place I want to go to. This is all linking back to Leviticus 19 and 33 and 34. This is all linking back to it. First place I want to go to is Exodus 23 and verse 9.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 9. Also thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing ye were strangers in the land of Egypt.
All right. So the way we love the stranger as ourselves is by not oppressing them, much like how we shouldn't oppress our own kinsmen. We shouldn't oppress our own kindred. Okay. We know the mind of a stranger because we were strangers in the land of Egypt, and in the land of Egypt, we got oppressed. Okay. We're getting oppressed now in this land. Okay. So again, it's like I stated earlier, Most High, when it comes to how we're going to deal with the other nations and those that are not in the superiority position.
Hey, Gabar, can you hold? I'm gonna leave for 1 second. Be right back. Okay.
Con. So again, like as we see how here, we see how that these things are going to be. Most High is righteous. He's not going to be looking at the stranger and just saying, "Oh, you can just treat him however." That's not how it works. Okay. Though it's not equal across the board for the whole totality of the Torah, because again, we brought out things such as usury. Okay. We brought out things such as how they can be given animals that died of itself. Okay. They can be bought as bondmen and bondservants to be possessed forever, to be passed down to your children. Okay. You can't do that with another Israelite. Okay. But there's still not an oppression that occurs. Okay. There's not an oppression that occurs. You still have to be able to treat them as you have wanted to be treated, because you know the mindset of being a stranger in another land. Okay. So that's what Leviticus 19 verse 33 and verse 34 is going into. Okay. Uh, if I don't know if Amion is back.
I'm back.
Okay. Cool. Let's go on. If there's anything that you want to add to that, you can. If not, we can move on.
I didn't hear you, so let's move on.
All right. Let's go to Leviticus 24, verse 14 and 15. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy, Salakia, Deuteronomy 24, verse 14 and 15.
Deuteronomy 24, verse 14. Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy stranger that are in thy land within thy gates.
Okay. So again, oppression is something that goes across the board that you don't do to strangers that are in your land, nor to your brethren. Okay. Go ahead.
At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor, and set up his heart upon it, lest he cry against thee unto the Lord, and it be sin unto thee.
Okay. So if you have a hired servant, whether it be of your brethren or whether it be of someone that's of another nation, you pay them that same day. Okay. So that's what it's talking about: loving your neighbor as your loving the stranger as yourself. Whenever it's a certain scenarios applied to them, such as a hired servant, you gotta apply the same manner of statutes and judgments as you would your own brother. Okay, just jump down to verse 17.
Verse 17, thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge.
Okay, so there's no perverseness in the judgment of a stranger. Okay, I just want to point that out because we know about fatherless and the ones who are like a widow. Okay, you don't pervert the judgment of the stranger. Okay, go ahead.
But thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee thence. Therefore, I command thee to do this thing.
Okay, so see, that's the mindset. Remember, the mindset is we got to remember that we were strangers in the land of Egypt, and we got to remember how we were treated. So now when strangers come into our land, we can't operate that same way. Okay, we cannot operate that same way. Okay, you can't just having strangers come into the land and then they just get oppressed. I mean, they do all this hard labor and rigorous work. They don't get taken care of. You don't pay them. You don't feed them. You leave them out there to die. I mean, Most High don't want us operating like that as a nation when it comes to dealing with the other nations. Like how the other nations treat us, he don't want us treating them that way. Okay. Okay. It's not going to be perverted judgment. All these things that are going on. And see, that's the thing, man. When you looking at some of these other camps out here and some of these other brothers that's teaching, that's a concern, man. They the way they talk is like, man, if they get put in this position, they may pervert judgment. And then they're gonna have a judgment coming on them. We gotta remember, we gotta be a set apart people. We gotta show the righteous example of how we are supposed to be dealing with the other nations. But that still doesn't make them equal. Because again, we just stated about usury. We just stated about how they can be given an animal to eat that dies of itself. They can be bought as bond servants to be possessed forever, but their brethren can't. All right, they can't be kings. Okay, and so on and so on. Okay, let me get let's finish this chapter out real quick, and then we got one more to pull, and then we'll be done. So let's finish this chapter out. Verse 19.
When thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and has forgot a sheath in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thy hands.
Okay, so if you're cutting down harvest and you got a couple little pieces that fall off, you don't go gather all that up. You leave it for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, for the poor. and for the needy that are in your land. Okay, you don't get greedy. You leave it for them so that way they can have something to eat. Much unlike how what's happening in this land. I mean, they trying to pass laws where you can't even go feed the homeless anymore. Okay, they trying to. I mean, in some cities you can't do that unless it's regulated out of a commercial kitchen, and you got to have permits and all this stuff. Then you can't just go do it freely anymore. Okay, so again, we see how the Most High, He's trying to set us up to be righteous, even about how we are treating the strangers. Okay, much unlike how we get treated in the land. So whenever we go back, the Most High gathers us. This is the mindset that we got to remember, man. We went through all these things. Now we're going to show them how you're supposed to do it. Now let's show these nations how you're supposed to do it, because they didn't get it right. They did not get it right. All right. Let's keep going. Go ahead. We're just gonna finish it out. Let's finish it all the way out. Huh?
When thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard, thou shalt not glean it afterward. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. And thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I command thee to do this thing.
So it's just saying the same thing again about like how it said for the harvest. It's saying the same thing about olive trees, and same thing about the grapes of the vineyard. Okay, you don't go glean it. You don't go over the boughs again. Okay, got to remember that we were strangers in the land of Egypt. We're strangers. I mean, we are bond. Our ancestors were bond servants, and we are the byproducts of being bond of those bond servants that over here in America. Okay, and other places that we got scattered to. All right, we are the byproduct of that. We're at the bottom, and we still don't get any equal status, and we still get murdered, and all these different things go on. Okay, so we got one more to pull, and then we'll be done. Is there anything that you want to add? You can. Let's just pull this last one, and then we'll be done.
No, we can go on.
All right, so last one before we get ready to open up. Before we put the link in the chat, Deuteronomy chapter 10. We're gonna start at verse 17.
Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 17. For the Lord your God is God of gods, and the Lord of lords, a great God, a mighty and a terrible, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward.
Go ahead.
He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless and widow, and loveth the stranger, in giving him food and raiment.
That's just what we read in Deuteronomy chapter 24, how he gives them food and raiment. You just went over all of that. Just went over how food and raiment is given to them. All right. You give them their wages of their hire before the sun goes down. You don't go being greedy when you're doing your harvest and you're gathering crops and fruits and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? If something falls off, you leave it for the strangers and for the fatherless and for the widow. Okay. By giving them food and raiment. Okay. So that's how he executes that judgment. All right. Last verse 19.
Verse 19. Love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt.
All right. And that's how we love the stranger as ourselves, because we were strangers in the land of Egypt, and we went through bond servitude in the land of Egypt. Okay. So that's what Leviticus 19 is talking about. Okay, it's just not talking about you just completely be equal, let them be kings. You don't have to put usury upon them. I mean, we can marry into each other and all this stuff. That's not what that's speaking about. All right. It's in food and raiment, meaning that you give them the wages of their hire. If you hire them as bondmen and bond servants, then you have a duty and responsibility to make sure that the males are circumcised, so that way they can partake in Passover, make sure that they doing tabernacles, Day of Atonement, Feast of Weeks, and so on and so on. Okay, that they're partaking in these things as you are supposed to be partaking in these things. They are your responsibility. Okay, but that's how they are taken care of, and that is how we are supposed to love them, love the stranger as ourselves. All right. So if there's nothing else, is anything that you want to add, you can. I'm gonna go ahead and yield and pass it back to you.
Okay. All right. The order, brother. We're gonna put the link in the chat. The link is in the chat. If anybody want to come on, either to refute what came out, bring more clarity to what was brought out. Have any comments on what was brought out? Feel free to hit the link. So we're gonna give it a few minutes for people to come on to respond. If not, we're going to close it out. Okay. So I hope we have brought you the correct understanding on this one law. It's not a blanket statement. It's pertaining to certain things. Wherever you see that one law verse is or verbiage is, it pertains to that particular incident that's there. It's not a blanket statement, meaning the entire Torah. It's not speaking of the entire Torah, pertains to everybody, as we brought out in this lesson today. So again, the link is in the chat. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes. Okay.
Con. I'm not sure if the Facebook comments are showing up. If there's anything on Facebook, all I'm seeing is stuff from YouTube. So
no, there's no Facebook comments showing up. It would all show up at one time. So
okay,
we're streaming actually to Facebook and to YouTube. So only the YouTubes are showing up. So there's nothing on Facebook because it should show up. Everything should show up here.
Okay. Con.
So again, nobody want to come on. I guess not. So hopefully, I guess those people that disagree or whatnot, they're going to come back when the class is uploaded, and they're going to go into chat, and I guess we say what they're going to say there. So, but again, you can come on now and speak your piece. Okay.
One person said, KDP 5000 said, "Do you have to be in Israel to enforce these laws?" Okay, so as far as being in Israel to enforce these laws, yes, a lot of these laws are pertaining to whenever you are in the land. Okay, so obviously, children of Israel. I mean, we're obviously not in positions of authority, so we can't earn bond servants and maid servants and things of that nature. So these things do not apply while we're in America. Obviously, they don't apply. When it comes to usury, I've seen it done before. I've actually seen that done with adding on interest. I've seen a brother do that. I've been an eyewitness to it, where a brother was like, someone came in that was of another nation, and he charged them extra for something that was out of his own business. I've seen that done. That can be done because that's dead. Because they definitely do it to us all day long. Okay, so yes, like I said, like it just depends on what law it is. But in terms of something like Passover, if a stranger, because Passover is something that we keep every year. Okay, if you have a bond servant or a maid servant, that's obviously not going to happen while you're over here in this land. Then yeah, they of course they would have to be circumcised and so on and so forth. If they want to, if someone that wants to convert over, let's say, even though over here in this land, if you have non-Israelites that want to observe Passover, I mean, you have non-Israelites who observe Passover. You actually do have that. If you have non-Israelites over here in America that observe Passover, the males got to be circumcised. I'm just going to put it like that. Okay. If they say, hey, I want to start keeping Passover, and they're not an Israelite, the males got to be circumcised. Okay. Even if it's over here in this land. All right. So, because we want to put it out there that we're not saying that the other nations, I don't know why some brothers say that the other nations, the commandments is not for them, and they can't keep no Torah and all that stuff, whatever. I mean, it's clearly we went over something like the Sabbath and the Day of Atonement, where that's got to be done. Okay, that's definitely got to be done. All right, Day of Atonement has to be done. So if you are someone that's a non-Israelite and you want to say, I want to start serving the Most High, then these are things that you got to do. You got to keep the Day of Atonement. You got to keep the Sabbath day. Okay, that's how I would address it in today's time that we're currently in. All right. Ak, is there anything that you want to add to that question?
No, brother. No.
Okay.
Ain't nobody that's coming on.
Okay. Let's see if we got anybody else. No, I don't see anyone else. I guess we can give it maybe about 5 more minutes or so, and if not, we can go ahead and shut it down.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is just going ahead and bring clarity to this one law thing. And I mean, the people that be using this stuff is these Christians, these so-called Christians, because like I tell them, I said that you guys are not the original or the real Christians. The real Christians were Hebrew Israelites, the followers of the Messiah. So you guys are like, you're not the real Christians. You know what I'm saying? If you're teaching against Torah, or the law been done away with and all that other stuff, you are not the original Christians or the real Christian, because the original and real Christian never thought against Torah. They never thought against you ain't got to be circumcised or don't keep feast days. They never did these things. You know what I'm saying? So, and all that can be proven. I mean, I've had conversation with these so-called Christians, and once I show them these things in the Bible, they have nothing to say. They quiet. So hopefully this will educate these Christians. This is about edification. Hopefully they'll be edified and stop talking about this one law and stop trying to get these non-Israelites into the renewed covenant like that. Like, it was just made one nation of people. You cannot believe your way into a contract. And repeat it again, because Christians think they can do that. You cannot faith your way into no contract just because you believe in Christ. You are now part of the contract made with the children of Israel. No, you're not. No, you're not. This is a contract. Contracts don't work that way. Show me a contract where you can just believe your way into it. I wish I can believe my way into LeBron James contract and get some. I can do that. You can't believe your way into nobody's contract. That don't work like that. It don't make no sense, bro. Like, well, I believe in Christ, so I'm like an Israelite. I'm gonna be saved. I'm like, stop it, man. There's no logic. There's no logic to their argument. You know what I'm saying? You can't believe your way into a contract, people. You can be a proselyte and get the reward of a proselyte, but you're not going to get the reward of the people that's actually the contract was made with. You know what I'm saying? Gabar, you want to speak on that?
Man, that's an interesting example, man. I wish I could believe, man. Yeah, I wish I could believe my way to LeBron's contract too. Hey, man, I believe in LeBron James. Like, I don't mean I'm gonna get paid like LeBron James.
Right.
Shoot, all I'm able to do is at most maybe get some shoes and like an autograph or something.
Right.
Maybe say maybe like an autographed jersey or something. Like, that's the most I'm gonna get. And even it may be worth something, but it ain't gonna be worth his contract.
Right.
So I mean, shoot, you can't. It's not how it works. I mean, a contract is something that's exclusive. That's why it's a contract. It's legally binding between two parties. Whoever's on that contract, that's who it's between. So that's what they got to understand about a covenant, is that's what that is. So when you're talking about this one law, I mean, the one law doesn't apply to the contract. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, okay, you want to convert over, you want to believe, okay, well, we have a contract. So, and the Most High told us, this is how we deal with you according to our contract. This is how we got to deal with you. Okay. So yeah, again, we breaking out this one law because this one law has been used to state that it really has been in defense of brothers marrying women outside of nation Israel, and then just thinking that it's all good. Like you can just marry white women and this, that, and everything and stuff. And like that's the reason why we're bringing this out, because that one law phrase has been used in defense of marrying outside of the nation of Israel. Okay, when we're supposed to be trying to have self-preservation within our own nation. Okay, that's really the reason why we're bringing this out, to give the proper understanding on it. Okay, because then it's also being used to try to say that salvation is for everyone, because there's one law. So That's the other reason why we had to bring this out, because that's why we had to show the distinctions. Well, man, even in this one law, you still got the nations where they gotta be in servitude. Like they can be bought as bondmen forever. Okay, so how is that salvation when they can be owned as bond servants in the possession of Israelites forever and be passed down to their children and their children's children? Even the children can be bought, amongst those strangers. So again, these are the things that we've heard whenever we hear this whole one law thing. They just try to make it just like equal, like anyone else, a non-Israelite can be a king of Israel. I mean, even the Messiah, he's still an Israelite, and he is the king, and he's an Israelite, and he's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Okay, so I mean, that's why we need to get this. Let's get this right about this one law, so that way it can't be used to try to build a false doctrine. All right, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Okay, yeah, man. Hopefully our Christian brothers and sisters just come off of that. They seem to just be bent on getting everybody in, and numerically that's not going to happen. It says 144,000. It gives you the numbers and different things, and the names of the children of Israel are on this city, and these things are already been set in stone in the future already. You can't try to bring everybody in. You don't said who's going to make it in already. It's already declared the end from the beginning. So it's kind of like, what I'm saying, it's time for you to just come off of that. You didn't come off of that trying to get everybody in stuff or get everybody to be equal, because everybody's not going to make it. For many are called and few chosen. Like, what I'm saying? This is not for everybody. Everybody ain't going to get it. They're just not. You know what I'm saying? No matter how you try.
Would you mind? So we got to clear another question from the same brother, KDP 5000. It might be a female. I think I know who this is though. But it says, "Would you mind if I shared this lesson?" Oh no, I mean it's on YouTube, man. It's public access. I mean, yeah, share it with whoever. It's going out to the masses. So I mean, once we're done with the live stream, it's going to be posted. So it's going to be for whoever to see. So the link can be shared. I mean, it's probably going to be shared with people that we don't even know. So by all means, share it. By all means, share it. So that way, this understanding can be given. All right. And like I said, and whoever you share it with, if they got questions and disputes about it, they can get back with us. And then we can have a dialogue about it. We can bring them on and we can set it up. So that way we can have that dialogue.
Definitely. But as usual, most of the time they don't come on and dialogue with us. They, for whatever reason, they don't want to dialogue with us. You know what I'm saying? So if nobody's coming on, okay, we're probably have to get some last words. I guess no one wants to come on and speak their piece on the situation. So I guess in the future they bring up this one law. I'm going to just refer them to this lesson. And see what they say about that. So, because I think you covered everything in this one law, and I want to be clear. We don't hate the other nations. Let's be clear. People will be thinking that we saying stuff that we hate the so-called white man, or we hate, the other nations. I'm speaking for myself personally. I don't hate so-called white people. I don't hate them. You know what I'm saying? According to the text, that's our brother. So say they hate not thy brother in thy heart. So I don't hate the so-called white man. You know what I'm saying? I understand the role that he plays, and he's playing his role. It's time for us as Israelites to play our role. You know what I'm saying? And be the men of the Most High and women of the Most High. Let's play our part. He's doing his thing. Let's do our thing. You know what I'm saying? With that, Gabar, you get some last words. No one seems to want to come on.
Khan, and I want to say likewise. I mean, it's not about hate. I mean, it's just about the understanding and the order that the Most High set up. Okay, so I just want to thank Sal for allowing us once again to come on his YouTube channel and be able to distribute this information out. We definitely got the premium version of StreamYard now, so we'll be able to start adding other little different things, and we'll be able to broadcast Facebook and I believe Instagram Live as well. We'll try to get that set up in the future. I just want to give a shout out to Vinny D. Appreciate you, brother, for coming on. I'm not sure if Michael James stayed on, but yeah, Sal, like I said, he's probably tuning in, or he's probably at home. I just want to say shalom to you, brother. Um, Not sure Craig Power sounds like Australia to me. I'm not sure what that means, but just want to say shalom to you, whoever you may be. Mad Judah, shalom, Mak. Appreciate you coming on to check out the lesson. KDP 5000. I think I know who you are, so just want to say peace and shalom to you, man. If you are who I think you are, I'm gonna get with you on the back end. Uh, and all praise to the Most High, man. Appreciate you coming on to be able to listen to the information. Like I said, you are more than welcome to share it. Uh, uh, Last words, I just want to give all thanks to the Father, Yahweh, in the authority of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, for allowing myself and my brother to come on here and to be able to teach this lesson, to give us the words that we need to to uh, to get this information out for ears that have ears to hear. Uh, we definitely give all honor and praises to him, and we hope that he sustains us in these times, and he restores us. He continues to allow the grace and the mercy that he has in abundance to be upon us in our comings and our goings, in our dwellings and in our travels. We definitely want to also hope that the Father is watching over those who are diligently seeking Him in righteousness, whether they be of the poor or whether they be of the wealthy, if they are righteously seeking Him and trying to understand Him and trying to walk this walk in the authority of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, that they be sustained in these times as well. We pray that our brothers and sisters continue to repent and turn back to the Most High, keep His laws, statutes, and commandments. Uh, Abide in the testimony of the only begotten Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, for if you don't, there is no light in you. So we want to just bid you all farewell. May Yahweh and the authority of His Son Hamashiach Yahweh Shai keep you and watch over you. I bid you farewell. Shalom.